So, you want to know about Kaʻiana? Some call me a prince. Some call me a traitor. Some call me a fool. And some, mostly women, call me things I cannot repeat in polite company. But if you ask me, I was simply a man who laughed too loudly, loved too recklessly, and walked in too many directions at once until I tripped over my own pride. This is my confession, my life, my disasters, my victories, my betrayals, all in my own words. And if you hear me laughing when I should be solemn, that's because it's the only way I know how to tell the truth. Before we begin tonight's confession, I want to thank you for being here. If you enjoy these Polynesian stories for sleep, it would mean a lot if you tapped the like button. It helps more dreamers find their way here. And if you'd like to drift off with us again, remember to subscribe, so every night you'll have a new story waiting. Now, let me share what really happened. My story does not begin with thunder, omens, or prophecy. It begins with me falling out of a mango tree. Yes, a mango tree. There was a girl beneath it, of course. There's always a girl. Her name was Ala, and she had eyes like koa wood polished by the sea, and a laugh that could rattle the pigs in their pen. I thought if I dropped a mango into her lap from above, she'd look up, see me, and instantly fall in love. Flawless plan, absolutely flawless. Until the branch snapped. I tumbled head first, arms flailing, and landed flat on my back. The mango bounced off my forehead and rolled into the dirt. Ala's eyes went wide, and then she laughed. Not the delicate kind of laugh I'd hoped for, but the rolling on the ground can't breathe kind. That, dear listener, was my first. From the moment I could walk, everyone had an opinion about me. The aunties said, "That boy will break hearts." The uncles said, "That boy will break treaties." The priest said, "That boy will break tradition." And my brothers said, "That boy will break his neck if he keeps climbing trees for women." None of them were wrong. I was tall too early, broad too young, handsome in a way that irritated men and made women sigh in ways that irritated their mothers. I could paddle faster than most, dance longer than anyone, and lie so smoothly you'd thank me for deceiving you. Naturally, this meant everyone expected me to be noble, serious, dignified, a living statue of tradition. Confession: I hated statues. They're boring. They just stand there waiting for birds to decorate them. Now, if this is to be my confession, let us confess properly. There was Kaʻiana, the fire dancer. She spun flames without ever burning herself. I thought she was a goddess. I courted her with feathers, shells, and boasts. She smiled, kissed me once, and then ran off with a fisherman who could actually feed her. There was Hawaiʻi, the singer. Her voice could soften even the hardest chief. When she sang, even the pigs fell silent. I told her I loved her song. She told me she loved my tattoos. We were shallow, and it worked until it didn't. Then there was Lehua. She swore she despised me. She said I was arrogant, vain, destined for disgrace. And then 3 nights later she appeared outside my hut and asked if I wanted to go swimming. I did not hesitate. And if you're keeping score, yes, for every woman I charmed, there were 3 who ignored me, 4 who scolded me, and at least 1 who slapped me in public. I probably deserved it. To impress Lehua, I once stole the largest canoe in the village. It was a double-hulled war canoe, long as a whale, heavy as pride. Built for warriors, not for one reckless young chief trying to show off. I dragged it into the lagoon, puffing like a pig at a luau. Lehua stood on the beach, arms crossed, already planning to laugh. I paddled once. The canoe shimmied sideways. I paddled twice. The canoe spun in a perfect circle. By the 3rd stroke, I was in the water, sputtering, clinging to the side like a crab that had lost its dignity. When I surfaced, Lehua was doubled over with laughter. I thought I'd ruined everything. But the next day she came with a flower in her hair and said, "You may be an idiot, Kaʻiana, but at least you're entertaining." Lesson learned. Humor will take you further than dignity ever will. My first battle was not glorious. It was ridiculous. A rival chief insulted my canoe, said it looked like a turtle that had given up halfway to shore. My pride could not allow this. We fought with spears beneath the sun. He lunged, I sidestepped. He swung, I ducked. Honestly, I was stalling, hoping the gods would intervene. And they did. A crab scuttled across the sand and pinched his toe. He yelped, stumbled, and I tapped him on the shoulder with my spear like a priest blessing him. The crowd roared. They lifted me high. They called me a warrior. Confession. The crab was the real warrior. I should have put him on my family crest. So picture it. Young Kaʻiana, falling out of mango trees, stealing canoes, saved in battle by a crab, already treated like a hero, already laughing too loud, already headed for trouble. That was me. That was the beginning. And it was only the first act of the confession of the forsaken prince. Confession. I was not made to stay home. Some men are content with taro patches, pigs, fishing nets, the same sunrise over the same bay every day. Bless them, the islands need such men. But me, my feet itched, my eyes wandered, my heart beat in rhythm with horizons I could not yet see. It wasn't that I didn't love Kauai. I loved it so much it made me greedy. The cliffs of Kalalau, the waterfalls spilling down green valleys, the golden curve of Hanalei. They were too beautiful to be the only beauties I ever saw. And so when the first foreign ships appeared, towering beasts of wood and canvas, sails like shark fins, masts stabbing the sky, my pulse quickened. The aunties said, "Don't you dare." The uncles said, "That ship carries death." The priests said, "That ship carries gods." And my brothers said, "If Kaʻiana steps aboard, he'll probably come back with 3 wives and a disease." They weren't wrong. The ship smelled strange. Iron, tar, sweat, secrets. It groaned and creaked, but stood firm as if the ocean itself had agreed to carry it. The foreigners eyed me warily. I eyed them right back. Their hair baffled me, some pale as sun-bleached shells, some dark as driftwood, some red like cooked lobster. Their skins turned pink under our sun, as if the island itself were scolding them. They spoke in a tongue that rattled like pebbles in a gourd. I mimicked their sounds until they laughed. They slapped my back, handed me a mug of something burning, and roared their approval. Confession. I think I promised to marry someone's sister without realizing it. Ah, yes, the women. Always the women. In Tonga, there was Siale, tall as a coconut tree, with a laugh like a drumbeat. She told me I was foolish, then kissed me anyway. In Tahiti, there was Mareva. She scolded me in 3 languages I didn't speak, and yet somehow I understood every word. She claimed she would never waste her time on liars. I told her I was the most honest liar she'd ever meet. She kissed me anyway. In Fiji, there was Lena, fierce and proud. She carried a club heavier than my spear and told me she didn't need me. I agreed and followed her everywhere until she finally relented. I was not loyal. Not to them, not to anyone. But I was loyal to the thrill of desire itself. What did I learn? Thunder. Thunder that lived in their hands. Cannons that spat fire across the sea. Muskets that killed faster than a spear could fly. At first I thought it was magic. Then I realized it was worse. It was technology. Magic requires prayer. Technology requires only hands. I asked questions in broken words. I traded gifts for lessons. They showed me how to load, how to aim, how to fire. The first time I pulled a trigger, the musket kicked so hard it bruised my shoulder. I nearly toppled over. They laughed, and I laughed louder. Confession. I wasn't fearless. I was fascinated. When I returned to Kauai, I brought trinkets, weapons, and stories. The people gathered in the night to hear tales. I told of ships taller than cliffs, women with hair like the sun, foods that broke your teeth, and weapons that spat fire. Did I exaggerate? Of course. But lies told with enough charm become truths people want to believe. And so they believed. They believed Kaʻiana had seen more, learned more, become more. The truth? I had not become more. I had simply learned how vast the world was. And once you know that, you can never think small again. When I returned, the women of Kauai looked at me differently. Lehua, who once mocked me for falling out of mango trees, now looked me over and said, "You still look foolish." Then she pulled me behind a hut. Holei, the singer, wrote a new chant about me, half mocking, half adoring. Children sang it when they thought adults weren't listening. The aunties sighed and shook their heads. "That boy will ruin us all," they said. They were right. Kamehameha. His name rolled across the islands like distant thunder. He was gathering allies, warriors, chiefs. Villages bent their knees. Canoes rallied to his cause. And me? I was uncertain. I didn't want to fight him, but I didn't want to serve him either. I wanted freedom. Women. Voyages. Laughter. Confession. Freedom and kings do not mix. So I delayed. I joked. I charmed. I walked between sides, thinking myself clever. And walking between giants is the surest way to be stepped on. So picture it. Kaʻiana returning from foreign seas, swagger in his step, women on his arm, tales on his tongue, and far off, in the distance, the shadow of Kamehameha lengthening across the horizon. That was me. That was my middle. And the Forsaken Prince was only just beginning to live up to his name. Honestly, when I first met Kamehameha, I liked him. Yes, I said it. The man I would one day betray. The king whose songs would outlast my own. The stone against which my fire burned itself out. I liked him. He had presence. He was the kind of man who filled a room without speaking. When he did speak, it was slow, deliberate, like the tide that never stops coming in. He studied me with eyes like calm seas, hiding sharks. "You are restless," he said. And me? I smiled and replied, "And you are not?" He did not smile. From that moment, I knew he would never truly trust me. And perhaps I never truly trusted him. Kamehameha invited me to his side. He promised land, power, prestige, a place beside him when the islands were united. He spoke of destiny, of ending the endless squabbles between chiefs, of building something greater than any one man. It was tempting. Oh, it was tempting. But here is the truth of Kaʻiana. I never liked being told what to do. Not by my brothers, not by priests, not by chiefs, and certainly not by a man who thought he was destined to rule everyone. So I told him I would consider. I bowed politely, smiled handsomely, and said I was honored. Then I went home, drank too much ava, and spent the night with women who didn't care about politics. Confession. That may have been my second biggest mistake. The first was thinking I could delay destiny forever. Politics in Hawaiʻi is dull at feasts. Food is the language of power. I sat in feasts with Kamehameha, with rival chiefs, with priests, with foreigners who brought cannons in their canoes. At one, Kamehameha stood and declared his intent to unite the islands. The room murmured approval, fear, awe. I raised my cup. Toast. Honestly, when I first met Kamehameha, I liked him. Yes, I said it. The man I would one day betray. The king whose songs would outlast my own. The stone against which my fire burned itself out. I liked him. He had presence. He was the kind of man who filled a room without speaking. When he did speak, it was slow, deliberate, like the tide that never stops coming in. He studied me with eyes like calm seas hiding sharks. "You are restless," he said. "And me?" I smiled and replied, "And you are not?" He did not smile. From that moment, I knew he would never truly trust me, and perhaps I never truly trusted him. Kamehameha invited me to his side. He promised land, power, prestige, a place beside him when the islands were united. He spoke of destiny, of ending the endless squabbles between chiefs, of building something greater than any one man. It was tempting. Oh, it was tempting. But here is the truth of Kaʻiana. I never liked being told what to do. Not by my brothers, not by priests, not by chiefs, and certainly not by a man who thought he was destined to rule everyone. So I told him I would consider. I bowed politely, smiled handsomely, and said I was honored. Then I went home, drank too much ava, and spent the night with women who didn't care about politics. Confession. That may have been my second biggest mistake. The first was thinking I could delay destiny forever. Politics in Hawaii is done at feasts. Food is the language of power. I sat in feasts with Kamehameha, with rival chiefs, with priests, with foreigners who brought cannons in their canoes. At one, Kamehameha stood and declared his intent to unite the islands. The room murmured approval, fear, awe. I raised my cup, toasted him, and whispered to the woman beside me, "Unite them under what? His shadow?" She laughed. I laughed louder. And in the corner of the hall, I caught his eyes on me, cold, measuring. Even my jokes betrayed me before I realized it. The women of betrayal. Yes, there were women, always women, and they had opinions. Kaʻiana, who whispered in the dark after feasts, "Why kneel to Kamehameha? You are just as great." Her words were honey, but they sank like stones. Lelehua, who teased with a wicked grin, "The women of Oahu say Kamehameha's men are braver than yours. Will you let them say that?" She meant it as a jest. Pride never understands jests. And Pua, quiet, serious, who asked me once, "Do you want to belong to him or to yourself?" I never answered her. Silence was my answer. And silence can be the loudest betrayal. Rumors spread like vines. Kaʻiana will join him. Kaʻiana will betray him. Kaʻiana waits to see who wins. And the funny part? They were all true. I was divided. Fire one moment, water the next. Loyalty one day, doubt the next. I thought myself clever, walking between sides. But walking between giants is the surest way to be stepped on. Nu'uanu. The cliffs, the battle sung of in chants, painted in blood, remembered in nightmares. The wind howled, tearing cloaks. The clash of spears and muskets echoed like thunder. The ground was slick with mud, and worse. I stood with my spear, cloak heavy, heart heavier. Men fell beside me. Men fell before me. Men fell screaming from the cliffs into the nothing below. I told myself, fight for your people. But which people? Those at my side? Those across the field? Those waiting at home with children on their hips? I fought. I always fought. But hesitation gripped me. I disarmed more than I killed. I spared men I should have struck. Confession. Hesitation in battle is betrayal. Even if mercy beats in your chest, the world calls it treason. I will never forget the sound of men driven over the edge of Nu'uanu by Kamehameha's warriors, the screams cutting off into silence, the crash of bodies far below, the gulls circling, confused by this sudden feast of flesh. I stood there, spear trembling, heart pounding, laughter bubbling in my throat, not from joy, but from horror. I laughed because I could not scream, and somewhere in the chaos, someone shouted, "Kaʻiana hesitates! Kaʻiana betrays us." And that was it. My name was sealed. Traitor. I left that battle with scars. Women love scars. They'd touch them, kiss them, asked for the stories. This one, I'd say, a jealous husband. This one, a pig. This, my brother's paddle slipped. They laughed, kissed, and I forgot for a night the cliffs, the screams, the name traitor. But confession, some scars are not skin, they are memories, and no kiss can heal those. So if your eyes are heavy now, picture it. The cliffs of Nu'uanu, the screams of men falling, Kaʻiana standing with his spear, torn between sides, laughter in his throat, and betrayal on his name. That was me. That was the Forsaken Prince. And I still had more to confess. Fact. Names weigh more than weapons. After Nu'uanu, I carried a new name. Traitor. It followed me into feasts, into beds, into battles. Even when unspoken, it was there in people's eyes. The women who leaned close to kiss me did so with curiosity, as if tasting danger. The men who clasped my hand did so with hesitation, as if expecting me to disappear before dawn. Once you are called traitor, every laugh sounds suspicious. Every kindness looks false. Every silence becomes accusation. And I, Kaʻiana, wore it like a cloak. At first heavy, then familiar. Then, strangely, comforting, because at least it was something no one could take away. I still sat at feasts, still drank awa, still flirted, joked, sang. But it was different. Laughter that once wrapped around me now sounded cautious. Conversations hushed when I entered. Women came to my side, yes, but their questions betrayed them. What will happen to you? Are you safe? Should I even be here? I smiled, kissed them, kept the wine flowing. But confession, inside, I was lonely. Because loneliness isn't the absence of people. It's the absence of trust. And I trusted no one anymore. Not even myself. I fought still. Chiefs do not get to retire quietly. One battle stands out. Rain fell so hard it turned the ground into soup. Men slipped, slid, drowned in puddles no deeper than a handspan. I fought with spear and fist, mud in my teeth, laughter in my chest. Yes, laughter, because the sight was absurd. Warriors roaring, slipping on their own feet, stabbing water, cursing the sky. I thought, if I die here, it won't be from a spear. After battles, women traced my scars like lines on a map. This one, I'd say, a jealous husband. This, a wild pig. This, my brother's canoe. They laughed, kissed, pulled me close. For a night, I forgot the screams of the cliffs, the weight of betrayal. But some scars you cannot show. Some are carved in the mind, and no lips can heal those. Sometimes I sought women not for love, but for forgetting. There were nights when sleep would not come. I would lie in the dark, listening to the ocean, hearing the echoes of men's screams at Nu'uanu. I laughed aloud to drown them. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Laughter can be armor, but armor rusts. Her name was Maile. She was not like the others, not a dancer, not a singer, not a warrior's daughter. She was quiet. She listened. Where others saw danger, she saw weariness. "Why do you keep fighting?" she asked me once. "Because I must," I said. "Why do you keep betraying?" "Because I can't help it." "Why do you keep laughing?" "Because if I stop, I'll cry." She touched my face gently, kissed my forehead, and whispering whispered, "Then laugh, Kaʻiana." But know that even laughter has an ending. I confess, I think I loved her most of all. By then my fortunes were unraveling. Allies abandoned me. Enemies closed in. Songs mocked me. Whispers spread faster than fire on dry grass. And still I laughed. Laughed at feasts. Laughed in beds. Laughed on battlefields. Because what else could I do? After battles, women traced my scars like lines on a map. This one, I'd say, a jealous husband. This, a wild pig. This, my brother's canoe. They laughed, kissed, pulled me close. For a night, I forgot the screams of the cliffs, the weight of betrayal. But some scars you cannot show. Some are carved in the mind, and no lips can heal those. Sometimes I sought women not for love, but for forgetting. There were nights when sleep would not come. I would lie in the dark, listening to the ocean, hearing the echoes of men's screams at Nu'uanu. I laughed aloud to drown them. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Laughter can be armor, but armor rusts. Her name was Maile. She was not like the others, not a dancer, not a singer, not a warrior's daughter. She was quiet. She listened. Where others saw danger, she saw weariness. "Why do you keep fighting?" she asked me once. "Because I must," I said. "Why do you keep betraying?" "Because I can't help it." "Why do you keep laughing?" "Because if I stop, I'll cry." She touched my face gently, kissed my forehead, and whispering whispered, "Then laugh, Kaʻiana." But know that even laughter has an ending. I confess, I think I loved her most of all. By then my fortunes were unraveling. Allies abandoned me. Enemies closed in. Songs mocked me. Whispers spread faster than fire on dry grass. And still I laughed. Laughed at feasts. Laughed in beds. Laughed on battlefields. Because what else could I do? When the world calls you traitor, laughter is the last kingdom you can rule. So if your eyes are heavy now, imagine me at that time. Kaʻiana, once the proud prince of Kauai, now the forsaken prince. Scars on my skin, laughter on my lips, loneliness in my heart, and one quiet woman, Maile, reminding me that even laughter fades. That was me. That was the middle of my downfall, and still I had more to confess. Confession. History says I betrayed Kamehameha once. In truth, I betrayed him many times. Not always with weapons, sometimes with words, sometimes with silence, sometimes simply by not choosing. And yet, in the end, I chose against him, against the tide, against destiny itself. Why? Pride, fear, desire, the belief that I mattered more standing apart than kneeling beside. I would rather be remembered as a traitor than not remembered at all. After my betrayal, feasts changed. Once, I was the man everyone wanted to sit beside. Now, mats beside me lay conspicuously empty. People filled them eventually, yes, but with hesitation, with whispers, with eyes always darting to see who was watching. The food still tasted good. The ava still numbed the tongue, but the laughter was brittle. Truth is, the loneliest place is not an empty house. It is a crowded feast where no one trusts you. I fought still. A chief cannot do otherwise. But the battles grew smaller, meaner. Not the great sweeping clashes of Nu'uanu, but petty skirmishes, desperate defenses, betrayals within betrayals. One fight, I found myself facing men I had once called brothers. We swung spears with the same rhythm, as if practicing together still. And when one of them fell at my feet, his eyes asked me why before his mouth could. That look wounded me deeper than any blade, and yet war remained absurd. Once, in the middle of a skirmish, a pig ran loose across the battlefield. Men stopped mid-swing to chase it. Spears clattered as warriors lunged, not at each other, but at the squealing pig. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my own weapon. I sometimes think the gods send us pigs, crabs, and storms, not to guide us, but to mock us. By then, I spent more nights by the shoreline. I sat with the waves curling at my feet, the moon hanging like a silver hook in the sky. I spoke aloud to the ocean, because no one else would listen. You could have chosen differently, the tide whispered. You could have stayed loyal. The wind sighed. And I answered, but then I would not have been Kaʻiana. I do not know if the ocean forgave me, but it always answered, and that was enough. Not all left me. Some still came, curious, reckless, drawn to danger. But they did not stay, not like Maile. Maile sat with me by the shoreline. She did not scold, did not flatter, did not ask questions she knew I could not answer. She simply sat. Once she said, "Kaʻiana, you laugh too much." And I replied, "Better laughter than silence." She shook her head, pressed her palm to mine, and whispering whispered, "Better truth than both." She saw me more clearly than I saw myself. The songs began to change. No longer chants of my luck, my charm, my victories. Now they whispered of betrayal, disgrace, downfall. Children sang them in mockery. Chiefs sang them in warning. Women sang them in pity. And me, I sang them too, laughing, laughing, as if by joining in, I could dull their sting. When you cannot stop a song, sometimes I dreamed of sailing away again, taking a canoe out beyond the horizon, finding some distant shore where no one called me traitor. In my dreams, I was young again, mangoes in my hands, laughter in my ears, no scars on my skin. Women loved me for my smile, not my stories. Men respected me for my jokes, not my betrayals. But dreams vanish with the dawn, and the horizon always carried the shadow of Kamehameha. You can leave an island. You cannot leave your name. By then, I knew it was over. Allies abandoned me. Enemies closed in. Even the ocean seemed to push me back to shore when I tried to sail away. I did not run. I did not beg. I did not hide. Because sometimes it is better to fall as yourself than to live as someone else's shadow. I think I was ready long before the end came. So, if your eyes are closing now, picture me there, Kaʻiana, sitting by the shoreline, cup in hand, laughter on my lips, sorrow in my chest, waiting for the inevitable, like a tide I could not resist. That was me. That was the forsaken prince. And yet, I still had more to confess. Confession. You can smell the end before it arrives. It doesn't come like lightning, sudden and sharp. It comes like clouds building, slow, heavy, inevitable. My allies grew scarce, my enemies grew bold. Even strangers greeted me with that sideways glance, pity, curiosity, the look you give a fish circling too close to the hook. I knew, of course I knew. The forsaken prince had run out of places to stand. The battle was smaller than the songs pretend, not a grand clash of thousands, but a desperate skirmish, blades flashing, muskets cracking, shouts echoing in the valley. I fought like a man already dead, fierce, reckless, even as blood sprayed and mud clung. One man shouted at me, "Traitor!" I shouted back, "To which side?" and speared him in the thigh. Humor is a poor shield, but it's the only one I ever trusted. By the end, I was bleeding, swaying, surrounded. And yet, I stood. Because if Kaʻiana was to fall, he would fall standing, not crawling. As I lay wounded, I heard the chants beginning, not of victory, not of loyalty, of betrayal. Kaʻiana the traitor, Kaʻiana the fool, Kaʻiana who chose laughter over kings. Children would sing them in playgrounds. Chiefs would whisper them as warnings. And me, I hummed along. Because if you cannot stop a song, you might as well sing it yourself. Perhaps that was my final act of defiance, to laugh at the songs meant to bury me. That night, I dragged myself to the shoreline one last time. The moon was high, silver and watchful. The tide curled at my feet. I lifted my cup, though it was empty, and toasted the ocean. You warned me, I told the waves. You could have chosen differently, they whispered. You could have stayed loyal, the wind sighed. And I answered for the last time, but then I would not have been Kaʻiana. I do not know if the ocean forgave me, but it listened, and that was enough. They say when a chief dies, he joins the ancestors in the land beyond the horizon. If so, then I imagine my arrival caused trouble. The ancestors lined up, serious, solemn, waiting for the prince who betrayed kings. And I stumbled in, asking, which one of you is in charge here, and how quickly can I betray him? Confession. Even in the afterlife, I cannot help myself. I picture the gods shaking their heads. That boy will ruin us all. Just as the aunties did when I was 12. Some things never change. But let me give you a softer ending. Not the blood, not the betrayal, not the songs of disgrace. A dream. I am on a beach. The sun is setting, painting the sky in gold and purple. The ocean is calm, rocking like a mother with her child. The women I loved are laughing in the distance. The men I fought are sparring in the surf with driftwood spears, blows playful, not deadly. Miley sits beside me, quiet, hand in mine. She, even laughter ends. And I reply, then let it end here, with the tide. I lift my cup, take a long, deep breath and confess one last time. I was Kaʻiana. Too much, too little, too reckless, too bold, but always, always myself. The tide carries me out, not as traitor, not as prince, simply as a man who lived loudly enough to be remembered, softly enough to be forgiven. And now, to you who have listened to all my confessions, rest. Let the waves carry you in and out, in and out. The story is over. The laughter is done. The songs have been sung. But your dreams are just beginning.